If we feel lost and don't know what we're supposed to be doing or feel lacking in direction, how can doing things differently help us?
Well, there's a journey in everything we do. But for everyone, and I don't think I can emphasize this enough, everyone, even people who seem to have it all sorted, that have got, everything that you can imagine, you sort of emulate them because it looks like everything's in place, they don't. There's continual growth. We're not the same person we were 10 years ago, and certainly not 20 years ago either, if you look back, reflective. That's why when you sometimes look at those pictures from 10 years ago and you think, oh, cringing, what were you wearing? Look at the hair. What were you doing? Oh, this is uncomfortable. People will find a letter that's like a love letter that you wrote when you were 17. You're like, oh, God, no wonder it didn't work out. But that journey that we're on, that growth, requires kindness and compassion to ourselves, because otherwise you don't find you. You're not going to let that open to you. We push ourselves a lot. We don't give ourselves nearly enough credit for the things that we do achieve. If the baseline for us is to wake up and get back to bed that evening without dying, there's a whole load of things we can achieve every day. But we tend to feel lost or hopeless when multiple core needs aren't being met. And we've spoken a little bit in this conversation about understanding what you need and who you are. And that's something that I think should be taught in schools to understand and modeled by parents, because every one of us is different. Most importantly, I think the first step is to acknowledge that it's okay to feel lost or to, not know what you're doing. It might be uncomfortable, but it's normal, it's fine, it won't last forever. It's the winter in the change cycle I created. So I realized there were 4 cycles of change that we have to go through, in the same way that there are 4 cycles of seasons in nature, or certainly in some hemispheres anyway. And all change starts in the sort of equivalent of autumn. So in nature, autumn is a season of repair and regeneration. The farmers are bringing in the crops. If you're a gardener, you cut back plants so that all the energy goes into the roots, so that you get bigger, more beautiful plants next year. Roses are cut back. That's that period of repair and regeneration when all the leaves fall. And that's our human equivalent of when there's a big abrupt change and things have to get pared back. Maybe it's a relationship that breaks down and you have to clear stuff out physically and emotionally, and your friendship circles change and you get rid of stuff. And so there are these, in those 4 cycles, you move out of autumn into winter. And when nature does that, you end up in a period of stillness. It's almost desolate. There's nothing going on in nature in winter. There's nothing growing. It looks bare. All the trees are, bare. But actually what's really going on underground is a whole ton of stuff. There's a load of stuff going on in winter that we can't see. And so the simile is exactly the same with us as well. The winter period is that period of change where we feel like nothing's really happening. We don't know where we are. There's nothing growing. There's nothing stripping back. It's that sort of moment of stasis. So if you're ever in therapy, sometimes that can feel like winter, because it just feels like you're just existing. There's nothing interesting happening, but all the work's going on in the background. And then we move out of winter into spring, which is a period of, new growth and freedom and new life. You start to see all the buds on the trees, and the plants start to grow and the bulbs are popping up. That's our human equivalent, I suppose, of feeling like you can maybe date or download a dating app, or you feel a bit more okay about yourself, feel a bit happier. And then we move into summer. And summer, of course, is that period of what feels like perpetual wonderfulness, where the sun's on the back of your, neck and everything's rosy. But you have to go through that cycle. Nature does that every year. No matter how much we moan about the rain, it doesn't stay in summer. And for human beings, it's absolutely impossible to stay in summer all of the time. And if you're on social media, you would probably be convinced or get conned into thinking that actually some people's lives are perpetually in the summer. So we move through those 4 cycles of change. So If you allow yourself to reach for inspiration and direction and stimulation, and know that every time we ask ourselves a different question or do something differently, we're getting closer to changes that matter. And you will never stay in the season of change that you are in right now. When things are amazing and your health's great and finances are great and relationships are great and life is just, everything's perfect. There's an autumn on its way, because there has to be, always. Whether that's that, I don't know, sales dip a bit at work and you have to work a bit harder, or somebody becomes unwell, and so that you're concerned, or you have to have your salary cut back, or whatever. That we just cycle through life in the same way that nature cycles through seasons.